Hi all, welcome to American History Post-Civil War 210B. I'm really excited to be here and to be your instructor in this online course. Okay, just so you know, you picked an online course. And I want to point out what I said in my welcome message, which hopefully you've read by now, which is that if you really need that structure of a face-to-face course, this might not work for you. Okay, I don't want to hear at the end of the year, oh man, I wish it had been a face-to-face because it didn't work for me. Okay, if you know that about yourself, then you might not want to take it. On the other hand, online offers amazing flexibility. Okay? You can turn me off. You can walk out the door. You can listen to the lecture whenever you want. You can play it at 1.25 speed, which I suggest. It speeds the lectures up, and counterintuitively we learn more that way. And then go to it again and stop and take breaks and take notes. The first title slide of any given lecture gives the themes that are covered in that lecture. Know those, and you should do quite well on the questions about that in the midterms and the final, which are the bulk of this course. Okay? Another part is the reading notes. We could talk more about that one-on-one if you want. Your first one will be assess the instructions. These are very clear, and there's a sample as well. The part most people get wrong is the evidence section. Here you're given the primary and secondary sources. So if you're not sure, you will get feedback on that first one. And then if every week I will be on during office hours, you can pop in then. I am always accessible. Okay, that is one thing I don't want to hear at the end of the year is that you couldn't get a hold of me, because 100% you can. By email, I'm usually answering within a few hours, but I'm here weekly on Wednesdays for you from 10 to 12 on Zoom. If that time doesn't work for you because you have classes, we can schedule another time that does. I also love to meet you face to face on campus. Maybe on a Friday we can go for a drink. I also am into running, and I really sincerely like to meet you that way, because you get a lot better talks in on a run. I do Elkham Beaver Lake every weekend, every Saturday, 8:30 in the morning. Every Sunday we meet at the Beaver Lake gravel parking lot by the filter beds. Any case, yeah, I've met some great students that way over the years, some of which have become, decades long running partners. So yeah, no pressure there. That's not your thing, but yeah, getting together and getting to know you is something I really value, and that's a way to get past, which is a liability in the online universe, is that lack of face to face, right? Okay, so let's talk a bit about the course. Get you excited about that before I say a couple more things about the course structure. Okay, so we are doing American history from the Civil War to contemporary times. Uh, Most of this then is the 20th century. So beginning with Reconstruction, but most of this is the 20th century. And and yeah, you couldn't be taking a more important topic or a more important course thematically than to understand the 20th century than an American history course, because the 20th century is the American century. And that is a term coined. We can objectively verify that Henry Luce is accurate in saying that, but it's a term coined in 1941 in an article in Time magazine by Henry Luce. If you look closer, you find that he's making an argument there in 1941, during as America is about to enter the war, for internationalism. He's promoting American leadership on the world stage and arguing that the U.S. should use its power to spread American principles of freedom and democracy. Now, this is a very old theme in American history, and in fact, one of the main themes in American history right since the Puritans landed and to establish a more perfect community, a better church, the city on a hill, right? America as a beacon to the rest of the world, and especially to England, of the perfect Reformation. Any case, this is also embedded, which gets to American exceptionalism from the very beginning. It's this powerful theme, right? Uh, this is again echoes in Manifest Destiny, which that term you're probably familiar with. Also in the Monroe Doctrine, which you might not be, but we will talk about in this course because that is expanded in the Teddy Roosevelt era. Okay, internationalism. But internationalism is not an invariable rule in American history, and look for that theme in this course, the back and forth between internationalists and isolationists and isolationism. And isolationism manifests often as the fear of the outsider, as xenophobia, as building the wall, keeping out the immigrant, racist immigration acts, disengaging from world politics, and also this fireproof house rhetoric, staying out of world affairs and getting drawn into wars. Now, it's the dominant theme too, isolationism, a large part of that in the two Trump terms, which are non-ideological. But MAGA is not a new idea, not at all. So look for that as well in this course. Yeah, but late 19th century, early 20th century, very different. America then was becoming an empire after the Spanish-American War, literally became an empire. And most of the 20th century, internationalism dominates. Till later, there's definitely the decades after Vietnam where you have the Vietnam Syndrome, as it's called, but that too didn't last. Okay? Now, America's place in the world, that's just one theme. And so I'm going to challenge you to think about those core ideological beliefs that pop up continually in the course. And those would be American exceptionalism. It would be beliefs about identity. Who counts as an American? Is it really the poor alien? Is it the Eastern European? Is it the communist? Is it the atheist? Is it the Jew or the Muslim? Sometimes, not always. The American dream. Another dominant ideological value that an absolutely bedrock value that is super important. And part of the American dream too is this idea that what we used to call the self-made man in gender terminology, that anyone can succeed here, the myth of the self-made millionaire. And that is super important in understanding American history. Also look for the theme of beliefs about the role of the government. And a certain tendency towards anti-intellectualism, and also a theme of a real suspicion of strong central government and of politicians per se. Right? The drain the swamp rhetoric, that's not new. That too has a long history back to Thomas Jefferson's generation, real fear of a strong central government. Fear too originally of a big standing army. Now, at its best, that kind of suspicion of government looks like a belief in the common citizen, a belief in democracy, in Republican liberty. At its worst, it can look something like far-right populist nationalism. And there's a long history to fears that America's Republican experiment will give way to authoritarianism, in fact. And those haven't gone away. In the fall of 2024, 45% of Americans believe Trump to be a fascist when given a definition of what a fascist leader looks like. Now that too is not new. Many thought that FDR was as well, especially when he broke convention and went for a third term and later a fourth. Okay? The response to that being the 22nd Amendment, where a president cannot do that, cannot seek a third term. That's 1951. Anyway, these are some of the ideas, the core beliefs. And so yeah, pay attention to what changes and what stays the same, because that is all that history is. Okay, so if you're freaked out about what history is, it really comes down to something very basic. History is really explaining how and why change happens. Okay? How and why change happens. Really nothing more or less than that at its core. History is about why change happens, which is not easy to explain if we're honest. And in that, in me trying to do that to you, there's the pressure's on me, and I've been trying to give you in recording these lectures both a bottom-up and a top-down story, right? The voice from the grassroots, the voice from the nation. Really hard in a survey course to give the voice to the individual, but I endeavor at least to give you the outsider as the group. Okay? And the ones on the outside of your dominant image of the past. And in the US, that usually means the African American. Blacks have rightly been called a permanent underclass in America. So what is their story? You will learn that in this course. Also, religion, super important in America. and among anyone in the world, really. We fool ourselves when we leave this out. We are in really a secular bubble here where we live, but nothing is more central to one's worldview than their views on the biggest questions of life. Why are we here? What's my duty to my neighbor? What is a moral life? And so, yeah, we spend more time on that than you might expect for very good reason. America has the most robust religious culture in the Western world. Uh, yeah, so super important. Okay, so and a final point, I want to also give you empathy for all. As much as it's not easy, but we have to try and get to a point where we understand the white races. We understand their fears, their hopes, right? And that you understand the black races, because that's part of this story too. And that's a reminder, there's no simple black and white when you look through history. There's no simple victim and oppressor. It's always more nuanced. So look for those nuances. And also, I guess my final, useless to judge anyone that came before us as bad people. Okay? Because we too will be judged one day, which is, I guess, not super important, but also because as historians, then we're not learning anything, right? Judging the past through today's lens, through today's understanding of human rights, today's understanding of science, that's just bad history. And we call that presentism, okay? And you don't want anyone calling you a presentist, right? Though I'm sure you've been called a lot worse. Anyway, final point. With all its many flaws, I want to end with that. America remains the most influential nation on earth. Definitely dominates global culture, has transformed global culture into a mirror image of itself. And it still dominates global economics. So you might think of America as a violent and failed experiment, but it is still really the repository of global dreams of freedom and of a better life. And it still has this amazing energy. It's amazingly innovative. It's incredibly optimistic. Also, Americans are amazingly generous, more than any other wealthy nation in the world, more than any of the other G20 or OECD nations by far. And they're also by far the wealthiest economy. America currently owns 26% of global wealth, or is what is known as global nominal GDP, the total value of all goods and services produced, right? 26%, and that is with 4% of the world's population. So, yeah, objectively very important. And it's also really impossible to make America fit with your ideas of what it's supposed to be, because every time you think that, it changes or it surprises you because it's so dynamic and so surprising and complex. And my advice is to talk to the people there about their own history. They love to share, and that is true of anyone. But Americans tend to know their history, okay? And they are proud of it. And some of these images here that are from a small African Black museum in Quandaro, Kansas, which is this town of free blacks across the river from the slave state of Missouri in the years before the Civil War, brutal times. And they're taken in, they're given sanctuary here as they cross over into the free state of Kansas by the local Wyandot tribe, who, not incidentally, were refugees themselves from wars with the Iroquois that pushed them out of Huronia 200 years before that. Now, the Wyandots still live here on their own land, and the African Americans are still their neighbors here. And if you tour there, you'll guaranteed you will learn a lot, right? You'll have to pull yourself away. But those pictures, that's the Black Community Museum there. Spend some time there, you will learn so much. And this is an example of one of these spaces in America where you come away with just a sense of hope and optimism. And these are the people who suffered the most, and they're just so proud. They're so forgiving. They're so generous and so open. So no, you cannot easily fit America into a box. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say to you. That's my little inspirational talk. And yeah, as to anything more about the course, that would seem anticlimactic right now. But yeah, do read over the course outline very carefully. That especially is true in an online course, that you really have to do that. And any questions, pop into my weekly Zoom time from 10 to 12 on Wednesdays, or hit me up for a coffee or something stronger on a Friday or a weekend run. Love to get to know you. All right. And yeah, thanks for listening. Hope the course really goes well for you. Take care.